And I'll start from this end. Yeah. So I'm Darryl Webster from New Zealand, Office 365 MVP, working for Share the Point. I was, like my fine colleagues here, migrating things and helping businesses, small to medium businesses, get into the cloud.
The light hits right on top of the head. That looks really weird.
And Brett, I haven't asked for the hugs yet.
Sorry, continue.
And so I've shifted over to training. I work for a training company now, Share the Point. And my goal is to try and make sure that, we've got admins up here, but there's so many more people that we represent underneath, and they need to know how to use the technology. So I'll hand it over to Peter.
Greetings. Oh, that's loud. My name is J. Peter Brzezzi. Perhaps some of you have read some of my columns on InfoWorld. I write the Enterprise Windows column. I am an Office 365 MVP, but previously an Exchange MVP. I got moved over in technical expertise this year, and mainly that was because over the past year and a half to 2 years, I've been focused on helping various customers around the globe to look at their environments on premises and see if, three things basically. Number one, they ask, should we move to Office 365? And then number two, how are we going to do this? And then number three, what are my morning after blues going to look like? What are the gaps? What are the deficiencies? And ultimately, I've just been answering questions like that for customers like NASCAR with 1,000 mailboxes up to Lloyd's Bank with 100,000 mailboxes. So hopefully we'll be able to answer some of your questions today. Next.
Hello, my name is Martina Grom. I'm Office 365 MVP since 2011. I'm one of the first 7 together with Brett. And I'm jumping through the service, so I'm covering Exchange, SharePoint Online, Skype for Business, and in the last year I'm focusing a lot on Yammer. And in my normal life, I do enterprise cloud deployment and answering questions to customers for bigger customers and helping them move to the cloud.
Good afternoon. My name is Jethro Segers. I used to live in Belgium, now I live in the US. I'm also an Office 365 MVP, not since 2011, but 2012. I work for a company called BitTitan. We make migration software. I'm the program manager there. So my task is mainly helping customers and partners transition to the cloud and making it as fluent and as fast and as easy as possible. So that's kind of my expertise. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing your questions about different topics. And I give the word to Brett.
Brett Hill. I work for Riverbed. We deal with most of the largest companies that there are in terms of their mail and platform migration, in some cases the migration, but a lot to do with the networking. So we're all about the networking, the protocols. How do we act? What's the impact of moving to the cloud? Inherent latencies because of cloud scenarios and performance of applications as a result of those things. So we talk a lot to people about that. I've been an MVP since Martina, and before that, I actually had a stint at Microsoft where the team I was on invented BPOS. Some of you may have heard that.
Thanks,
Brett. I know these guys.
So my name is Sean McNeil. I'm Director of Enterprise for Skykick, another migration software. Our tagline is, we're the easiest way to migrate. So, Jethro and I have been friends for long before we both started these companies, so we have a little friendly rivalry around this. I've been awarded 3 times as an Office 365 MVP. Before joining Skykick, I worked for Catapult Systems, a very large systems integrator here in the United States, and handled migrations from 50 seats to, I think one of the largest ones we did was 125,000 seats for a university. So been there in the trenches, but mainly been on the email side and then the Active Directory integration. And just before we open to questions, I know we have some other Office 365 MVPs in the audience, so I wonder if you guys could just stand up, our other fellow MVPs that are on the panel. Kelsey, come on. Kirsten, got anybody else in here?
Christian.
And then any other MVPs in the audience? Yes. Let's see, Tony back there, so we got some other MVPs.
Friends of.
I think there's right now, was there about 120 of us in 365?
I have no idea.
Wow, that's a long way from 6.
Yeah.
Please stand if you can spell MVP.
All right, guys, that was a great introduction. So one other thing I want to introduce us to is to another way to capture your questions and to answer them. We're just doing something a little interactive with OneNote. So this will take you off to a OneNote online page where you can go to a section, edit the browser, drop in your questions. So that'll be over here. Create yourself a little page and answer your questions in the browser.
Just a little tip, the first 6 questions got a t-shirt, so be quick.
Now that's a good motivation.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
So
they're
do
all-
that from your phone or your tablets or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're all double XL.
So we'll just go back to here. All right, so shall we start a warm-up question, guys?
Yes.
Or has anyone got their arms ready to just throw up and they've got something all ready? I know there was some...
Question.
One here in the front.
There's some-
Alright, so my question isn't really technology related. It's more of how your guys' career kind of came to this point to where you're suddenly an MVP. Is it something that you kind of planned for and worked for, or is it just that you're passionate about the software and you just kind of happened along?
Okay, so the question was that how did we get to where we are as MVPs? Was it something that we planned for, or that we just had to work through? So yeah.
I didn't plan for it because there was no Office 365 MVP at that time I got awarded. So I was just recognized through my social knowledge and blogs and Twitter and whatever. And I think it's not a good point to start planning to be an MVP, because to be an MVP means you are passionate about communities and you like to share your knowledge and help people. And I think if you like that and if you do that well, you will be awarded anyway.
Yeah, I would agree there too. It's nothing you can really plan for doing, because if you go to the MVP website, mvp.microsoft.com, there's no set of criteria that do this, this, and this, you're going to be an MVP. So again, kind of like Martina, tweeting, I blog. I actually, before I was an MVP, co-founded with several of these people on here that Office 3 International Users Group. So, just, again, you've got to be passionate about giving back to the community. If you're doing it just to get the award, it's probably not going to show in your writing anything, and Microsoft will see through that. Get them a t-shirt.
Oh, he gets
Yeah,
a t-shirt.
t-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like for example with me, I was an IT manager at university in Belgium, and at that point Office 365 came out. We were looking for a new system, and I just started using it. I was so impressed with the different services that on the community.office365.com I started answering questions, looking into it, what can we do with it, and suddenly some user groups asked me, do you want to do a session about it? And I was like, of course, I want to share my knowledge. And not just from an ego perspective, of course, that's fine, that's fun. But definitely, this is what we have been doing, these were the struggles, this is how we fixed it, this is how the transition was going. And suddenly, Microsoft is going to pick you up, and it will automatically flow that way. If you have to work for it, you're doing something wrong.
So I'm going to disagree with all of my fellow panelists here.
He's for the money, by the way.
I went for it. Yeah, all of my fellow speakers, we were tech speakers and so forth, and the MVP thing came up. Everybody got awarded, and I wanted to be awarded. So I went for it. It doesn't mean that I didn't want to share knowledge or I didn't want to be part of the community effort, but I went for it aggressively. And I talked to other MVPs. I aggressively blogged, aggressively tweeted, aggressively spoke, because I wanted to be an MVP. It's nice to think that it's always altruistic, that, oh, I had no idea, and then one day I was awarded. No. I went for it. So if you want to be an MVP, nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be acknowledged for putting effort into the community. You do that for free, and then you want acknowledgement for that. So go for it.
So just since we're all commenting, I'm going to fall in the middle of this. And I would say that if you're interested in that kind of recognition, or if you want to have people contact you, because as an MVP, one of the benefits is people say, hey, do you want to do a book? Do you want to speak on a thing? If you want that kind of thing, the key is original content that's valuable and that's referenceable. And if you can create original content that's useful to people, clarify technical issues, provide good tips in concise, often visual format, that's generally what all of these people excel at, then there's a place in the program for you.
So I guess I have the final word on that. Yeah?
Oh, he's there.
Yeah, I'm just over here. Yeah. So,
Hey, Daryl.
never mind. I didn't do that well. Yeah, so it is very much about community, echoing that, and I'll just add to that I'm actually an MVP because I was made that way by the community themselves. So what I give to the community, I get just as much back. I learn, and I'm quite happy to say, I don't know about that, but I'll go and find out. And that sort of exchange of knowledge and being willing to do that is what it's all about.
Yeah, I'll add one little thing to that too is you think as MVPs that we just all we do is give love to Microsoft. We probably on this panel and all the MVPs are most critical about the software, and we have a good challenge to give that feedback back to Microsoft. So yeah, you're almost rocking the boat a little bit to get your ideas. You said to improve the service and stuff. We're probably some of the biggest ones that do that as well.
All right.
I think I saw a gentleman with his hand up back here.
Hi, my name's Jeff. I'm with General Networks. We're an MSP based in California. We actually use both migration and SkyTaker. But I was talking to one of my colleagues today, and they mentioned that. We can hear you.
We'll repeat the question.
Yeah.
So one of my colleagues mentioned that the issue with the way we've been pitching Office 365 solutions on the sales team is that we aren't looking at it as a real solution set. It's just sort of a replacement for infrastructure, whether it's servers on-prem.
ET phone home.
So whether it's
Now everybody's awake.
okay, hopefully that won't happen again. So we've been pitching it as a way to replace an on-prem Exchange server or an on-prem file server or something like that. It's sort of a point solution that helps either save money or make things a little bit easier for the client. What are your tips for bringing it around to a larger discussion around productivity and some of the other promises that Microsoft makes with a cloud platform like 365 that has so many different pieces of functionality?
I'll take the first spin on that. So you did the question. You're right in that it usually is the first time a company's moving or thinking about it is that email migration, because that is a commodity. I always tell people that when you send an email across, whether it's between your on-premise system, it doesn't go across with bells and whistles and cool. You just need it to work. And why not let Microsoft manage it? They're the ones who create it, and they can do a very good job at it. But you are right, it's much more about the whole ecosystem, bringing that all together. And as you can see, I was just talking to somebody up front before this session, talked about how they went to 365 and they're just amazed by how much of the new features are being pushed out to them. Fire hose is what he actually said. You get these new features all the time that aren't going to be in, like, we've had some of the things in Office 365 and Exchange Online now that the new Exchange server was just basically announced this week, and they're not going to have it. I think it's coming out at the end of this year to get that functionality on premise. So to have that unified, though, now across SharePoint, and as you see, the new groups that are in Office 365 now, users can manage groups and basically almost be a quasi-replacement for a team site, because now this group, you get a OneDrive storage for that group. You get a calendar, you get a conversation in there. So yeah, it is the full story is getting everybody involved in that, Skype for Business. And once they see the productivity increases they can have as an entire company, Delve and such, it really sells itself that way if you can really do that. And a good way to talk about that is the CIEs, the customer immersion experience. They have some here, but you really see all the products working together.
Absolutely, I totally agree with Sean. The thing is that the way that for example, before I started working as a let's say as a program manager, I had my own businesses, and so I had to sell Office 365 as well. And what you're going to do, or what you see a lot, is that there's a need for return on invest. Going to the cloud, no matter what, is a cost. You have to get a migration tool, you have to get some consultants in-house, you have to do it maybe. So there's an investment. So, for example, return on invest can be increase your productivity. How do you increase your productivity? Right? For example, take SharePoint and SharePoint Online, you can build workflows. You have to know that if you automate, for example, what is my return on invest? Is that easier done in the cloud? Good. Is it easier done on-prem? Solution is the same. You will go where it makes sense for your business. So it's not really, in my perspective, always a decision, do we go to the cloud? I think a lot of the things you have to transform it into what makes more sense for me as a business to be more efficient. If that means on-prem, then it's on-prem. Does it mean hybrid? Luckily, Microsoft makes it a lot easier to go into that hybrid, but then it's hybrid. Is it the cloud? It's the cloud. So in a lot of cases, selling Office 365 becomes not really a technical thing anymore. It is a conversation that you might have to do with the CFO instead of the CIO and the CTO. So giving them a real clear answer is that's the investment you're going to make. This is the performance or the efficiencies that you're going to increase. That's the money that you're going to save. Everybody can say, well, I want to do an increase in efficiency and that and that and that. In the end, it's about the dollars. Lowering your cost, increase your revenue. That is how businesses work. So if you can convince somebody that it's more beneficial for him to go to the cloud, that's how you sell Office 365. Yes, absolutely. That's the idea.
So my name is Atul and I work for Logicalis. We help hundreds of customers for Office 365, similar situations that my friend has asked. And this is not something new. But my belief is that first you have to be convinced yourself before you can convince someone else.
Absolutely.
Sure. That's the first step. And as long as you see the solution in a holistic way, don't see in silos and pieces and just see Exchange Online, or what can it do for me? If you see the solution in its totality, when I talk about totality, we talk about Exchange Online, right? We talk about SharePoint Online. We talk about Lync Online. We address the customer concerns here. TCO comes afterward. Once we start showing them the value that what the solution brings, talk about embedding the Azure component into that, rights management services, DLP, message encryption, talk about remote apps, combine all that together, right? And then the CFO say, is it even doable? That's the customer asked me. Can you even do it? And then there are 3 pillars for the modern IT: agility, availability, and speed, right? And that's what the CFO and CIO wants to hear. How you can do that? How can you convert your existing infrastructure or data center into a modern IT and modern app? That's where the key value is. Technology is underneath it. As long as we can address these 3 lingering questions that CFO and CIOs are struggling to figure it out and show them that here is the value proposition. Not only you get a better TCO, which we can prove, you also get productivity, you see it, and then you see this whole bunch of services around it, right? It's just a one baby step that you take to get into Office 365 by Exchange Online, which is the main driving reason for most customers, right? Email is the first SaaS application. But besides that, you have got too many steps that you can take in next few years, and that defines the IT roadmap for that industry. I'm very passionate, as you guys are, and I speak to all the customers on a daily basis. And one more thing I do.
You can come take a seat.
You need to wrap it up.
We got an empty seat right here.
Very good. I love that.
So nice
summary.
of you. But here is the point. As I said, you have to be convinced yourself first. And as long as you have deployed this with your own hand and you see the functionalities and feature, how they blend together, then you would realize the value. So what I have done for my customers is I created a live demo, very, very complex and very rich, with 5 Active Directory Forest, 5 Exchange organizations, working with single Office 365 tenant, having all the features, all possible features that you can think of that we are hearing in this whole Ignite session in one window. The biggest challenge that I find
I'm sorry, I hate to be interruptive, but I would like to get other voices into the conversations.
Sure.
I totally appreciate your passion and it comes across clearly, and I think that summarizes a lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You mind if I ask the audience just a couple of quick questions here? How many of you folks, when it comes to a move to Office 365, how many of you have Exchange Online as your biggest thought in terms of concerns, worries, fears, doubts? All right, okay, good. How many are more concerned about moving SharePoint?
How many of you are already on Office 365? Yeah.
Oh, great.
Fantastic. Yeah.
How many of you don't want to move to Office 365?
Ever. One guy.
Yeah.
Honest.
Shoot.
Sure.
Actually, the one you left out, and you might have been getting to it, was the concern level, was the Skype for Business online and the link online. You know, of course, it's moving to Skype for Business. My question is, what are your opinions on the maturity level of it? Because I've been to several Skype for Business classes, and you know, we can tout the voice in the cloud and all this good stuff, but that's not completely mature, in my opinion, in reference to or in comparison to other vendors. So what are your opinions on that for somebody that's looked at that? And is it gaining maturity, or is Link Online currently mature enough to just build upon that, or is it worthwhile to just wait and see where the maturity goes?
Before we answer that question, sorry, I would like to ask you if you have an experience of the Skype for Business versus Link Online infrastructure, if you've experienced a difference in those two services.
No, we currently don't have the Link Online or anything like that turned on.
Okay.
We are on premises completely. We do have an Office 365 tenant that we use applications from and things, but we don't currently have any of our mailboxes or IM, presence online or anything of that nature.
All right, thanks.
Well, I was just going to say that, very few people are moving to Office 365 because of the link features, right? Oftentimes what I see is if you have an existing link infrastructure, a lot of folks are using it only for IM and presence. They're not even using it for the telephony side, right? And part of the reason for that, and maybe some of you have experienced this, is if you're setting up Link, you typically have to call in some experts to do it. If you're not experienced with the telephony background and you don't want to play with it, you just leave the IM and the presence, and then you go with whatever current vendor you have for your telephony. Moving to Link Online, some are under the misconception that or now Skype for Business, moving there, some are under the misconception that I'm going to have now telephony in the cloud. That's not accurate. You're right. It's maturing. It's not quite where some of your more mature on-premises solutions currently are, including Link on-premises. Or now they call it, I guess, Skype for Business Server. Yeah, they keep messing up with names. But either way, the point is that no one would say at this point that it's incredibly mature where it would mimic what you have with your on-premises. However, they're working on it. So obviously, it's something down the road. I think what I've seen is and maybe some of you have seen the same, a lot of folks have moved to Link Online easily if what they were using it for on premises was IM and presence. So that's an easy move.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. You don't have that enterprise voice right now in Skype for Business. It's something that Microsoft has been promising, I think, since the Office 365 was launched. And they even announced it again last year at the Link conference. It would be at the end of the year last year. So they're still waiting for that full PSTN. And my understanding of that, even when they have that, you're not going to have the full functionality of that. You're not going to have the E911 and some of the call routing and call handling. So if that's core to your business, then yeah, you're going to have to stay with something either on-premise or another vendor there.
You want to do first?
Go ahead.
I actually disagree a little bit with my colleagues here. And the reason why is that I think there's a lot of more functionalities within Link, Skype for Business, whatever you want to call it, that can help people to be more efficient in the way that communicate. For example, okay, granted, they're totally right regarding the enterprise voice. But for example, if you enable federation with the companies that you work with, you can do video conferences. You can save a lot of money on stuff that you normally have to install on-prem, right? So in the very fast changing world of multimedia and communication in general, I think with a Link Online, and I'm still calling it Link Online, it helps you to be more efficient. For example, a lot of webinars nowadays are done in Link Online. Does it always work? No. Does it give you a good experience? Well, sometimes it does. So I think if you have not the need for the very big advanced enterprise voice, I think Link Online definitely can help you increase where you are right now. Does that mean that you still have to invest in some telephony that is next to Link Online? Yes. But it's just the way that you want to organize it. I think there's a lot of things that are good at Link Online that people dismiss because there's not enterprise voice. So I really want to make sure that people understand there's more to it, to Link and Link Online and Skype for Business, that just that telephony part.
And one to add on to that is that in my experience, the Skype for Business service is one of the big productivity surprises that comes along with Office 365. And until you've actually had a chance to work with it and do, oh, look, they're online, let me contact them right now, I'm going to IN them, I can tag them when they come online, you can do attachments, you can post URLs. There's so many things that you can do with it that I just take for granted because I've been using it for a very long time. And I tell people when they start thinking about Office 365, says, well, I'm telling you right now, once you get Exchange and SharePoint going, what you're really going to be surprised by is the amount of productivity that you get from Skype for Business, because you can save thousands of dollars just because you connected to the right person at the right time in a moment. And it's easy to do, particularly for small businesses that can't necessarily afford this kind of infrastructure. So I'm just going to put that out there as kind of an underappreciated
Can I add something, guys? Oh, are we going to another question?
No.
Yeah, we'll add something. So, just
but
I'll keep it
there's
real
one
short.
in the back, which
Just
is-
about to say who's attended a large Link Online meeting and had trouble? Yeah, okay. So is that an indication of maturity? It might be. What I've seen is a session, coming up, not too far off, where Skype for Business is going to mature and be a lot more equal with the existing products out there. So if you know a little about protocols behind Link Online, that it was using the real-time protocol, and we do get a little sluggish with sharing desktops and things like that. It's going to be changing over to H.264, and if you attended a session like I did about Link on Skype for Business meetings, that's going to be a big improvement in the quality of our meetings.
We've got the gentleman back here in the back end,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. For large company, can you have a decent network connection to Office 365 without using ExpressRoute or Riverbed?
Yeah. Basically, it's really your internet connection that you're paying for. So you did mention the new Express route that now you can have a dedicated route to there, but it's basically what is your bandwidth to the internet. That is what is going to drive how your users are getting to the Office 365 resources and services. So it really is what companies willing to invest in that connection to the internet.
There's that, and then there's latency to your data center, which you have to figure out. Some geo-distributed nationals, they have poorly connected networks, and they can't really do anything about that. In those cases, they may or may not want to invest in additional infrastructure. It just depends. And so different people have different degrees of challenges in that regard. But it is a money decision in the end, money versus performance.
Actually, I want to take that question to give a little bit of feedback about stuff that I've seen with partners. If you do a quote to get your partner or get your customer into Office 365, every time they forget to increase their internet connection. They're going from an on-prem situation to a cloud situation. So increasing the load on their internet connection, and that's the one they do not take into consideration. So that is a part of the things that you have to think about before you go to Office 365. Not after, when you see a lot of problems and blame it on Office 365.
Yeah, there needs to be a good network study before you do that.
Regarding hybrid, we were with Christian, and it's been emerging with this theme of a lot of companies are going to be in a hybrid world for a long time, because I'm particularly thinking of, imagine a company has gone to Office 365 with as much stuff as they can, these workloads, Link, Exchange, My Sites perhaps could go, simple team sites, but they're anchored on-prem by some heavy investments that they've made in full trust code. So they're sitting in a world. I'm a little concerned about that picture. Can you tell us from your experience what you might mitigate the pain? I'm thinking of a company with an intranet that's spanning. What do they have, like a farm on-prem and a tenancy in the cloud? So their users, they get to be, does that all work just fine and peachy, or do their users suffer all sorts of discontinuity? And is there, can you warn us about how, because I think that's the world we're going to be in for a long time.
Absolutely. I think hybrid is a situation for every workload nowadays that we're going to be in, maybe for as long as we will live, let me say, is that That's just the way that it is. You will have a lot of scenarios where on-prem will be a very valid situation. Compliancy, security, legal reasons, not just by choice, but because you have to, right? And then you want to use for those specific workloads the cloud. So you have to match those. Will there be pain? Yes. Let's be honest. Even in, let's say, the most advanced service right now that supports hybrid, which is Exchange, which is really built to have that environment, there is pain. There are problems. There are limitations. I think the key to minimizing that pain is understanding those limitations. Defining you as a company, what do I want to put in the cloud and what not. What is going to cause pain and how much pain is it going to cost me? So it's a full assessment of what do you want to put out there, what are the results going to be for my end users, and is it worth it to me? If it's worth it to you and you have the availability to do it, then do it. There's no way that you can get the same SLAs that Microsoft can. There's no way that you can provide the same features. There's no way that you can keep up with the same patches, updates that Microsoft is doing. So there's a lot of reasons to go to the cloud. But like I said in the beginning, the main reason is it has to be valid for you. There has to be a business reason for it. And you have to make that assessment. You have to make that decision. And when you go for it, you have to understand what the consequences are going to be like.
And another point is, I think you're talking about SharePoint Hybrid in first row, is from my perspective, SharePoint Hybrid, like it is today, is working, but there are other hybrid scenarios which are working even better. And we heard a lot about SharePoint Hybrid with 2016, with the next version. And I think that will improve. What I see is when a company made an investment and made FileTrust Code on their internet site, what I see from my customers, they stay on that solution for a while. But when they are talking for their next migration, they are planning towards an online solution. And then they ask us, how can we migrate our applications, which are currently full trusted code, into SharePoint apps, or how can we use them in the cloud? So that's what they are doing. If you made that investment in the last year, it would take some time because you can't do that in the cloud right now.
And in addition to that, there's the notion that you could take your full trust scenario and push it into Azure and run your machines there if you're invested in a cloud future.
Yeah.
And that will act as if it were part of your on-premise scenario. So that's another form of hybrid. We have to be careful when we use hybrid because it means different things to Exchange than it does to SharePoint, than it does to Lync, than it does to Azure. It really kind of doesn't really have a meaning unless we have a context to speak. There's a hand up.
I have nothing further to add, but I wanted to just say something as part of the.
Who's talking? I can't tell.
Got it.
You like that?
Back there. Okay.
Gentleman back here.
So we've got a multi-tenant AD where we've got multiple school districts all on one AD. OU separating the schools. It's pretty good shape. My question is, when we moved Office 365, is best practice to move them into a single tenant, or should we split them out into separate tenants? And is it even possible to split them out?
And what's the relation? I'm sorry. What's the relationship of these different possible tenants?
We're basically a big IT consortium for schools in our area. So we support like 9 or 10 different schools, and we're adding more every year.
Is it all within one district?
Currently, it's all our county, yeah.
Okay. So to answer that is, to get that, what we were talking about earlier, to get the full breadth of all of the synergy of working it, having them all in a single tenant is the best idea, because now you're going to be they'll be the same SharePoint sites they can do, and not having to go cross tenants. So the idea of a tenant is your space in an Office 365. So I would, if they really interact very heavily with each other today, definitely keep them in a single tenant in Office 365. Now you can, if you wanted to, move those out to different tenants. I do believe the new Azure AD Sync does allow for multiple installations, and you can just do OU filtering. So you say this OU is syncing with this tenant, and you have another instance of Azure AD Sync that OU would sync with another 365. So you have the choice there. My recommendation is stay in one tenant.
And is Azure AD Sync, is that the way to go versus DirSync?
Yeah.
Just in
Oh,
general,
yeah.
even if
Yeah.
that was a single tenant?
Yeah, Azure AD Sync is basically, it's in beta 2 right now, or it's fully released right now.
Yeah.
It's the Azure AD Connect that's in beta.
Yes.
But that is what's going forward. So DirSync is very soon going to be deprecated, and you'll be using Azure AD Connect actually to do that, which what does a wizard installs to the Azure AD Connect.
Yeah.
Or Azure AD Sync.
I'm also a big fan of a single tenant strategy because it helps you and it reduces all the management capabilities. If you split it, it gets more complicated from a management perspective. So you're better with a single tenant there.
Yeah, very good point, Martina.
So the next question in the middle.
Yep, go ahead.
Hi. Quick point about Link, and then I'll ask my question. So we actually have had a number of our clients move into Office 365 through Link. You know, they've started off with a 150-person trial, and 6 months later they're on a 3,000-person tenant. So don't rule that out. My question, much more lightweight for you guys. What's been the most exciting revelation from Ignite that isn't related to Office Graph?
For me, I love the part, I don't know if it's the first release. If you're familiar with first release in Office 365, prior to, I think the announcement was Tuesday or Wednesday, you had to move the whole tenant into first release. And first release meaning you're going to get the newer features rolled out soon to your tenant. Now you can subset that just down to a group of users. So you don't have to have all your user base go in first release. You can just find your power users, your IT-friendly users, and put those in first release so they can try out that new stuff before it rolls out to your entire company. Anything else you guys thought was?
Yeah, so for myself, just something that went live today was they announced, as some of the migration guys may not be too pleased with, but they announced the ability for you to take PSTs and move them up to Office 365, and actually and it's not fully launched yet, but to take PSTs and put them on a drive and send them to they've been promising this for a while, but they actually announced the program today that you'll be able to take your PSTs, put them on a secure drive, and send them up to them, and they'll ingest them directly. So, if you've done larger migrations like I have, and you've seen the pain of doing a straight connection, typically I always recommend that folks use a migration solution. I won't say which ones, but ultimately, I think it's a lot easier to do that than trying to do it yourself. But this is actually going to make it so that maybe folks can do some of them themselves, with the PSTs.
Hi there, just a quick question around, currently we're in a user adoption stage and we've got users going into Office 365 as well as Yammer, but as of Monday, I've been hearing a lot about groups, and a big question that keeps coming up is, should we be focusing now on groups and less on Yammer? I know there's some differentiation between the two, however, Katrina's probably the right person to answer that question, but especially with we've got about 1,000 people really learning how to use Yammer, and the roadmap we went to shows there's real potential for it. Obviously, there's a bit of a disconnect, in all honesty, in terms of Yammer and Office 365, and they told us to get that, bring that together, so you've got the nice Office suite at the top and all the rest of it. But now I'm hearing a lot about groups, and to be fair, it looks very good. But my worry is in terms of training and user adoption and all the rest of it, how should we be tackling that? So. Yeah, there you go.
Martina.
That's a Martina question.
I think I don't have a 100% answer for that yet. What I like about groups is that groups rely to Azure Active Directory. And that's where they belong to. Because in the past, we had groups within SharePoint, we had Yammer groups, we had distribution groups in Exchange, and we had everything split out. So, and I like the fact that we have it now integrated out of Azure Active Directory. And what I see is that the group will come from Azure Active Directory down to the services and will fill into Exchange Online, SharePoint Online, and it will also connect to Yammer groups as well. You can see that if you do PowerShell, you see there is already a link. It's not filled yet. Maybe somebody from the Microsoft team can answer that. And I'm asking myself the same question, what it will be in the end. And I think it will be the productivity tool which helps you most, So if you're looking for a team collaboration tool and managing your projects and doing a lot of mobile works with mobile devices and so on, probably Yammer is the best solution to do that because it's very easy to implement and you can use it very, very soon. If you see I'm more stuck on emails and I need my structured Outlook with all my folders and so on, you will probably go to Groups. And Tony Redmond is not in the room anymore, I think, yeah. And that's the solution. So you have the choice to do it, but there's no 100% answer yet. And I think Microsoft hasn't decided it yet.
No, I disagree.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would disagree. Like, I've got a really clear message. I've attended most of the group sessions, and I see there's a place for both. You know, it's not a versus question. I've done a good comparison between Yammer versus groups, and it's not versus, it's and, Yammer and groups. So there's some things that Yammer can do, some things that groups are going to do very, very well. You know, being able to fire up a space where you've got all your collaboration tools to just, you know, get started and get into that. But you'll still need something like Yammer to be able to deal with the big discussions across the whole company, and Yammer to be able to, you know, have an external network and pull in those kind of conversations with you know, your external customers and how you're going to be using that. So do look for more connections with Yammer to groups. There'll be some, you know, overlaps emerging, but I think the hub is going to be groups and Yammer.
Yeah, just in terms of training as well, which is probably something you can touch on, which is, you know, you're trying to teach them to use Yammer, yet at the same time you're saying, well, we've got groups now, so have you thought about that? And then there's obviously, where do we go to do that? And it's where do you go to do your work is ultimately the question your customers would ask you or your users would ask you. So.
Well, I think that if you chose Yammer as your main tool to do certain things, right now stick with it. You have built a whole user adoption time frame and a schedule and a strategy, and you make that work. Make people use it. And after that, if that evolves in more groups and whatever your company decides, that is going to be a new user adoption. I don't think that you have to switch because a certain technology at first sight looks a little bit more sexy, more usability, whatever. I think you as a company made a certain decision. You're going for that profitability, for that usability. I think you should stick that right now till the end until it evolves into something better.
We got the question back here.
Just here.
Okay. Oh,
just at the front.
Just going right here. Yeah.
Hi, myself, I'm Wamshi. I manage SharePoint for my company. So with that background, so now we know that Microsoft has announced OneDrive for Business has unlimited storage going forward, I mean, sometime end of the year. So users or companies are now driven to use OneDrive for Business, right? And it's obviously personal storage. Have you heard of companies actually embracing this OneDrive for Business completely and doing the migrations to OneDrive for Business? That's the first question. The second piece to that is, I know that for sure that after an employee leaves the company, the data gets deleted, maybe after we deactivate licensing sometime. Now with unlimited storage, and there is say 1 terabytes or 2 terabytes that an employee has in OneDrive for Business, once they leave, it's going to be a pain on how to manage all that content. What are your views on that?
The Riverbed right now is actually moving to OneDrive for Business, and we just got an email the other day, you know, move your My Documents into OneDrive for Business. So it's happening, 2,000 people in the company, so we are actually doing just exactly that. You know, it's pros and cons, as you say. It's an interesting question about, you know, what happens when someone leaves, but the point is when they leave, they don't walk away with their My Documents folder. It's in the cloud. It belongs to the company. Now they can still have access to it. So.
Yeah, and to add on to that a little bit is, I do see some companies right now are a little hesitant for the exact same reason you talk about, is because it's so easy to sync your OneDrive with any machine I have, my home PC, you know, on my mobile device right now, until RMS gets just a little bit more, so we can automatically turn on RMS for OneDrive for Business, so you can protect all those documents, so when they do leave and I disable them, then even if they've synced it to their local machine at home, those basically become dead files. So that's one big on the security concern about syncing to multiple locations. I will say, though, I believe it's correct is once you disable a user, if you have it set up as the manager relationship, that manager actually gets an email and says, hey, user so-and-so just left, here's access to all their OneDrive. You automatically, the manager gets access to all that drive, so then they can move that out or do what they need to do for that.
Just a point on that. The problem that you're talking about is something I describe as data prison. It's something that we dealt with in the past, back in the IBM mainframe days, where you were kind of at the mercy, the whim and the will of the vendor, in that case IBM. It was a dystopian empire, and you did what they said. Then we got away from that, and we started having more of an ecosystem that we could do what we want on the server world. When you move things to the cloud, you have to accept that to some degree, you are at the mercy of the cloud vendor. Now, in this case, Microsoft does a good job of providing, in the email world as well as with OneDrive for Business, they're pretty good about saying, we're not going to charge you for ingestion, we're not going to charge you for exgestion. They make it easy, but it's kind of like what you're saying. As you grow, it becomes a Hotel California situation. You can check out, but you can never leave, right? And the rules can change, and you like that? So the problem, you can quote me on that. Here's the problem then. What do you do about it? There are some options. Some of your options are there are companies that are springing up for backup of some of these things, backup of OneDrive, backup of Exchange Online, in order for folks to not necessarily be able to restore from backup, but simply so that they have an offline version of the data in the event they ever want that portability or agility or need to maneuver away from the Office 365 platform. Now, is that really necessary? Well, it's kind of like a backup parachute. You hope you never have to use it, but you like that it's there. And I think that that's sort of what some of the concern, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt is in a move to Office 365, is that you need some kind of idea in terms of how you might have an exit strategy. Putting a lot of data into OneDrive for Business might be a concern. So think about what your exit strategy might be, whether it's that or email.
I want to come back real quick. I want to come back to your first questions. Do you see a lot of companies embracing OneDrive for Business? And actually, I do. So without going into too much details, we do a lot of Google Drive to OneDrives. And everybody has a notion of Dropbox, Google Drive, even what's it called, OneDrive for Consumer. So everybody knows how that storage works. So people are feeling very comfortable with having their personal storage synced to every computer that they have. It's really, really comfortable. There's one little pitfall that I see, is that with the easy way of sharing documents and the fact that people know how to do it and it's very intuitive, that is suddenly it's going to be a maze where you're not going to find everybody's documents anymore. So we see that a lot, is that at a certain point, you will have to be very careful that your OneDrive for Business does not become your collaboration environment that normally groups, Yammer, SharePoint, team sites should be. Because, like you said, at a certain point, they will leave. It's not a question of if, it's a matter of when. And then you will have to know what to do with it. So embrace it, yes, but know what kind of strategy you want to attach as a company to that OneDrive usage.
Can I do a real quick follow-on to that?
Yes.
I was in the Bowles session for music. The gentleman said they're having major problems with OneDrive and syncing and Microsoft's
Yes.
environment.
Yes.
I was in the Dell session, which was very interesting. The presenter asked the audience who uses Dell. A couple people raised their hand. He said, "What's your biggest reason you're not using it?" OneDrive can't feed Dell. It's so problematic.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're saying we should move there or not? I mean, I'm hearing now we should be moving there because of all the sync problems.
What I'm saying is there's a reason to embrace OneDrive for Business. For example, if you want an environment where you start on on the documents that you've been working on, that you don't want to share out with teams, that you don't want to collaborate on, absolutely, you can use that. What I'm saying is there's a pitfall if you start using OneDrive and sharing it around and use it as your collaboration environment and you're just giving a lot more ammunition that I had at that point, is that Delphi is not picking it up. There's all other issues. Then team sites, groups, and even Yammer are a better solution for that. That doesn't mean that you not should use OneDrive for Business.
Yeah, I think what I hear in his question is about the sync tool specifically.
Yeah.
And Microsoft has acknowledged that they're
working on that.
Yeah.
So that's evolving, and I would expect some.
10's going to have a brand new engine, isn't it?
Yes.
We'll just have to the next question over
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
I have one short question for all six of you, which you have like 30 seconds to answer. what's your favorite and most powerful feature in Office 365 which is currently available?
Mine is data loss prevention. Do you need to know why as well? Okay.
Mine's guest links, because that's actually how I'm sharing this notebook with you.
Okay.
Yeah? So being able to share something publicly, getting people involved. I know it's really user level, but being able to just get people involved and start to collaborate with people outside of my company, that'd be mine.
I would say RMS. So if you really dig into what RMS can do for you to protect data, it's great. And especially now it's coming even more in tune with the new, now you have mobile for MDM for Office 365. But RMS, if you really look into how you can protect documents and only let people have them. So, we are moving away from this file server mentality where you had ACLs on all the file servers. Now, a person can have a file in many different forms, on a USB drive, an email or something. But putting RMS, really investing to implement that, protects that document no matter where it goes.
Presence.
Presence?
Azure Active Directory.
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm more on the Exchange side of things. So what am I going to say? Clutter? Office graph and clutter? No, that's so. No, I think rights management's a good one because obviously, if you've ever tried to set that up in an environment, how many of you have ever tried to set up rights management on premises? Right, that's a nightmare. And so to have it already done for you is fantastic. From an Exchange perspective, really having all of that infrastructure there is an overwhelming thing for me. To be able to know that there's native data protection that's involved, which means that your data has 4 passive copies split between 2 different data centers. To have that be the case from day one and not have to have set it up myself is fantastic. So that might be my favorite feature, the native data protection, even though I do believe that you need more than that. But that's one of my favorite features.
Thanks. Question right here?
Yes. So I have a kind of technical question regarding migration that I seem to be getting conflicting answers to all the time, all right? So my question is, when you do a cutover migration, there seems to be conventional wisdom says that there should not be accounts or mailboxes already in the tenant. The cutover migration should be done into a pristine environment, right? And that's what I've been telling everyone. Until I once ran upon a situation where there already was populated tenant and they were able to just do a cutover migration straight into these mailboxes. But you can find a lot of Microsoft people on the internet saying that that's not the way it should be done and people are running into errors. So is there some kind of truth here, and what's your take on cutover migration? Should there be existing identities or not?
I think both works. I think you have a way that you should do it, and that's just cutover means you just make sure that you have your DirSync in place. They're there. You do your cutover. Cutover will create the mailboxes. We'll make sure that everything is there. But it should work. The thing is, if you tried it with already existing, was it an Exchange on-prem? Was it used DirSync? Was it with DirSync?
If you enable DirSync, you can't do cutover.
Sure.
So
that's
so
the
simply
thing,
not possible right there.
So I think you have to be very careful with so every migration strategy has a certain requirements. And I think the best way at this point is just to follow the way that Microsoft is doing it. But it doesn't mean that if that is the supported way, if that is the way that Microsoft wants you to do it, that the other things will not work. Like, for example, the same with the 2,000 mailboxes. You can make it work with more as well. So see it as a guideline, but if it works, that's the thing that you want to achieve.
And if you do have DirSync in that scenario we actually have run into, you can still have DirSync running. If you just filter out the MS Exchange GUID attribute from your DirSync so that attribute doesn't get synced to the cloud, that's what's basically telling 365, hey, he's got a mailbox on premise. Don't create a new one. It's waiting for you to migrate one, usually through a hybrid through the MRS. So if you filter out that MS Exchange GUID attribute in your DirSyncing, that'll work. Now, if you've already had DirSync running, you actually have to delete all the users because you can't just pull that one attribute out. You'd have to delete all your users, reset up DirSync, and basically filter it out before you do your first sync.
Question at the back.
Hi, I work for a consulting company right here. Hello.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, you're looking around.
There was a voice in my head.
I work for a consulting company, and we work with a number of large companies. We have Office 365 at our company, and then the companies we work for have Office 365. When we work for them, they set up our own Active Directory account in their Office 365 tenancy. So I find myself switching between multiple Office 365 accounts, whether it be Yammer, Lync. Have you guys encountered this, and any suggestions on ways to make it easier to switch between or to somehow combine the identities?
Are you a partner for those specific?
Yeah. Yes.
So normally there's something like delegated admin, right?
Yeah, if you're a cloud partner, there is a delegated administration feature where you can jump into the tenants where the customer has to give you access to.
So in some cases we are, in some cases we're not partners. The one that's the large ones where we're not partners is really where we run into the
a lot of browsers and in private.
Yeah, exactly.
The delegated admin feature works very well, and for Yammer, it's a very popular question, having more than one identity. What I usually do, I let me invite as a guest into the Yammer network of the customer and not handle that identities. That means I'm member of a lot of networks, but it's easier for me to handle one single identity.
Yeah, and I'd say the big thing, the Yammer external networks, but why are they setting you up with a separate account? To do admin stuff or to see the user there? Because even with SharePoint, you can invite external users as well and do it that way. So it's my identity, and I'm just invited guests, much like the Yammer external network.
Yeah.
For them, okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Question?
Just a question here, actually.
I'm sorry, one question.
Where are we going?
Just over beside Kirsten.
Kirsten? Oh,
there's already a mic there.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I'm going to downshift a little bit from the technical side because you're all consultants and yeah, right? And it's kind of a loaded question. I'm going to try to simplify it though. What kinds of clients are you actually migrating to Office 365? Are you having, like, for example, difficulties maybe with some of the bigger clients, and maybe European colleagues up there may have a sense of what I'm talking about? We all talk about the CFOs and CIOs, but there's an emerging role. Sorry, the data privacy officer. Are you seeing major challenges getting some of the bigger clients out there regarding with data sovereignty, data privacy, and with multinationals? Are you having those difficulties?
So, from my perspective, my biggest customer is in the education sector. They have 110,000 users, and my biggest customer in the commercial sector has around 40,000 users. And what I see, and I'm from Austria, and Germany, Switzerland, and Austria are kind of special around data privacy. And what I've learned is that if you're talking security, you have to talk it very neutral, and you have to involve the security people very easily, because very often the most arguments against clouds are coming from here, from your stomach, or from what you believe, and not what you get there. So, and if you have the chance going with a customer in that security discussion and involve his lawyer or something else, you are normally good. I hadn't had any customer who said, I can't go out of security reasons.
I think that was a much tougher conversation 2 or 3 years ago. I think really today, most companies, it's almost now inevitable that your data is going to be in some type of cloud. I mean, we talk a lot, if the IT team, if you're not planning for the cloud, your users are going to go around you. That's how Google got into so many accounts. Google went around IT and went to the business and said, here's this stuff. And so you had pockets of Google dropping up. It'd be very interesting to go in your company right now, see how many people have Dropbox on their machine or Box on their machine that they're already doing. So, you really need to have that strategy. It's not a question of when they're going to go to the cloud or if they're going to the cloud. It's when, and really educating IT, and you talked about the security of doing it the proper way.
Yeah, I'm coming back to the whole hybrid thing. I think there's always in every company at least, unless it's when it's really, really legal, but there will be a portion of the data that they at least can put in the cloud if they really want to. So I do think that there's, like for example, take education, right? I've been an education advisor when I was still in Europe, and what we saw is that management decided not to do teachers and management and staff in Office 365. Students, they didn't care. And after a year, they were like, why is our teachers not in the cloud? Why is our staff not in the cloud? Why are our managers not in the cloud? So let them get used of the concept of having data in the cloud. Like Martina said, get the lawyers on staff, make sure that they know where the data is, what the legal implications are, and let them grow into the cloud.
Yep. Great. Okay, we'll pick the pace up.
And another possible answer is that many customers have a mismatch that they see data location is the same as data security. And that's not true, because very often data which are handled through Office 365 are more secured than they are on premises.
Yeah.
We'll pick the pace up, and so we don't have to all answer the question. We'll start to get around a lot more people.
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Just a quick clarification on the previous question regarding how to handle multiple customer identities and admin credentials. I mean, working on that role myself as well, I just wanted to make sure or make the point that being a partner of record or being otherwise a partner is a different thing than having those delegated admin credentials. So if you are actually doing administration on the tenancy, there shouldn't be any reason why the customer couldn't grant you the delegated admin permissions to actually perform your tasks.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're a partner from Belgium. And what we would like to do is actually better understand how our customers are using Office 365 in order to more proactively help them with training and so on. So to, for example, detect that a certain department is sending too much email attachments to each other, and then we could kind of go in and train them to how to do that better. Have you ever heard of a solution to monitor what people are doing in Office 365?
Yeah, you can get a lot of reports. You can also set up some transport rules, even like block attachments, or if they send attachments, have it. We were actually just talking with another one of our fellow MVPs, Lorian Strant, who wanted to have his company stop sending attachments and just send them as links to their OneDrive location. And so one of the ideas we came up with is, just create a rule and say you can't send an attachment, or at least have it BCC to your security compliance or something, or their manager. So make them aware of this, and then change that behavior.
Okay, we'll go with the front question.
I don't think it's going to happen in 10 years, but let's say in 10 years, everyone's in cloud now. So there's no hybrid, your migration is all completed. Will you see yourself doing, what kind of value can you add to us? I know I'm going to be still managing my connectors, but what kind of things, technical things, can you basically block?
You know what,
That's easy with Office 365 because it changes every week.
Changes every day. I think this is a good question because it's something that's been weighing on my mind about what I've seen even today. I mean, we could talk 10 years from now. One of the things I'm seeing from a lot of solutions architects, those that are responsible to design the deployment of the move to the cloud, is I see sort of a folding of the hands, a giving up. Right? Here's what I see when it's on premises. You come in, you know you've got Exchange, and the first thing you do after you install Exchange is you start looking for your ecosystem partners to, your best of breed solutions, your best in class, your favorites, whatever it is, to handle scrubbing, to handle archiving, to handle monitoring, backup and recovery. And we know this. Those that have deployed Exchange and some of these other solutions like SharePoint, we know that as soon as we deploy these things, we start looking at the bolt-ons. Microsoft is trying to sell this thing, and they're having a hard time with adoption. So they're trying to make it as easy as possible for it to be all that it needs to be. One of the mantras last year at MEC was built in, not bolted on. Right? So what does that mean? A lot of solutions architects are looking and they're saying, well, okay, if we're moving to the cloud, then I guess there's really nothing we need to do anymore. They're going to take care of our long-term data retention. They're going to take care of our gateway with security. They have Exchange Online Protection. They're going to take care of things like our availability of these services, even though they go down from time to time. So I think that's a mistake. Just like it's a mistake to think that 10 years from now we might not continue to be relevant, I think that it's a mistake to think that you're no longer relevant other than to become migration experts and hybrid experts just so you can get everything to the cloud and pretty much go get yourself a job at McDonald's or something. I think that there is a lot more for you to do. And it still is essential now that when you're going to make a move to the cloud, that you find ways to remain relevant in that decision-making process. There are tools for migration you need to decide upon first, and then there are tools in terms of bolt-on tools to help you when it comes to that move to the cloud. So it's a long-winded answer, but ultimately I think that there's plenty of relevancy left, in our world, even in the next 10 years.
Next question.
I got it, all of that? I got all of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to speed up. We have 7 minutes left.
We are currently a Lotus Notes environment with scheduling to go to Office 365. Any migration experience you guys might have, tips and tricks or kind of lessons learned for
Lotus Notes?
The last Lotus Notes customer?
See me, or we both probably have an answer, so you could probably find us both at the party. Okay. It's a little more. That might be just a little bit. Yeah.
We are a school district, and we have Exchange on-premise for our staff, and we have our students in the cloud. Very familiar.
Yeah.
We currently have DirSync. I've seen groups since I've been here, and I'm thoroughly excited. But I'm hearing that I need the AD connector, and do I need to move from DirSync to the Active Directory Azure?
Yeah, I believe the Azure, the new Azure AD Sync will support that group feature going forward. So, and also you're going to need, especially if you're using the Outlook client, you're going to need Outlook 2016 as well, because that'll actually add in the groups there. So.
And then do I need you said the AD connector is coming, and somebody mentioned that I would need that in order to sync the groups back to on-prem?
Well, so Azure AD Connect is basically a umbrella that will install different features for you. So it'll do the Azure AD Sync. It will help you set up what you want to do password sync with that, or it'll also help you set up with ADFS. So it's kind of the installer, the Azure AD Connect is. But the specific thing that you're looking for to do the synchronization of those groups is the Azure AD Sync, which is a part of Azure AD Connect. Does that help?
So, hi everybody. We talked about Office 365 bringing each day new features.
Each week.
Each week, improvements. Normally there are improvements for all the features, but regrettably sometimes also features will be deleted. And we have sometimes had some customers that rely on these features that are being deleted. How do you deal with these customers? Or
So
how do you, yes?
I answer that question because I'm the shortest one in answering questions.
Oh, yeah.
Normally what I see when Microsoft is depreciating features, they give the customers a certain amount of time to board off. So one of the best known features was public-facing websites. And just a question on the audience, who is using public-facing websites?
On Office 365?
On Office 365. Okay. So you have 2 years to offboard the solution and do something else. And that's how things happen, and that's just life. I'm sorry to say.
Well,
get over it.
Yeah, I almost.
What she means to say is, yeah, just tell them it sucks to be you. You move on, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the way it works.
It's
See, that would have been shorter, right?
Yeah.
Kind of what Peter said is, when you move to the cloud and move to a service, you're now at the whim of the service provider of what they do. You don't have that control, so you've just got to realize that a little bit there.
Have you heard about what replaced public? I mean, are they coming out with something?
Yeah, they have the
The public-facing website, there are some partner options available where you can go there. Yes. Nothing from Microsoft.
GoDaddy.
I hope
You can go to
that-
GoDaddy.
Yeah. Next question up the back, middle rather.
Yeah, Jeff with General Networks again. To get back to the conversation that we had earlier about value and cost, the gentleman from BitTitan, you'd mentioned, it's about cost and things like that.
Yeah.
as a partner, there's a program that comes up every now and then from Microsoft that gives a rebate check to the client. Right now, there's an offer for like $1,500 of rebate if you go through a partner like General Networks that has a certain level of competency. So I mean, there are some advantages of going through a partner in that sense. Are there other opportunities for cost cutting in things like 365 licensing that you guys have seen that make it easier to get clients onto 365?
So I think there are currently two options to migrate to Office 365, and one is go through Fast Track with an onboarding offer through a partner, and the second one is going through the onboarding center with Microsoft itself.
I believe both Skykick and Migration Wiz are offering onboarding now.
Yeah, so there's definitely value for the customer to use partners. I think Microsoft is doing a very great job in making that initiative to get you rebates and make sure that you go into the Office 365 site. But I also think that relying on it as a business model, it's kind of a bad way to go. I think, like I said in the beginning, make sure that you have your value, that they understand why they should go to Office 365, and they will actually come to you to get you there. So it's an incentive, but at a certain point, they will be at that where they need to be, and then those incentives will stop as well. So I think you have to make sure it's a nice thing, but don't rely on it too much.
So we've got 2 more minutes before we close off, so probably just time for one more question and a quick answer.
And you have a T-shirt left?
Oh yeah, I do.
We have 2 T-shirts left.
Last question.
Yes.
No.
That's not a question, Chris.
Give that back.
Can I have a T-shirt?
So, following on the question of like removing features, like one thing a lot of our customers ask is when we want to know what's coming 2-3 years out, and I've heard from others so far this week that the answer is we won't know.
Yeah.
Our customers don't like that. So what can we do?
I have some advice about that. First of all, there's the roadmap site that shows future, but the other thing is to look for what's happening in Azure and Azure and Office 365 to kind of blend into one cloudy thing over the next few years. And so if you look at because they're kind of cutting the technology there, and then as that gets matured and scaled out, it will become the basis, I'm predicting, upon which Office 365, they're already using the same infrastructure. And so as that technology refines, you'll see more and more in that direction. So if you want the long lens, look into the investments that Microsoft is making into Azure as foreshadowing to what networking and capabilities will happen in Office 365. And then, of course, there's, what are the investments in the server? And they're foreshadowing all that very clearly, I think, at these kinds of events.
So we're reading tea leaves to a degree.
Well, it basically, the short answer is Microsoft doesn't even know what's probably going to be in the service in the next year. They basically work on about a quarter-to-quarter roadmap. They've come out and said that. So, and again, it goes back to it. You're at the whim of the service provider when you go to the cloud. So again, you've got to just realize you've got to give up some of that control of I'm going to control everything. I'm at the whim of Microsoft and the service provider to what they're going to bring out to it.
And look, let's be honest, guys, this is a business, right? So Microsoft is not looking, they've got a public-facing roadmap that is worthless at times because they can't give away what they're working on because they're actually going up against competitors.
Exactly.
Some of them former partners, or some who are still gold partners and so forth, but they're creating technologies because, again, they're focused on built-in, not bolted on. So they're trying to kind of, they're trying to keep things secretive as much as possible. They're being very aggressive about it. They're working like a startup in a sense. So you're just not going to know what they're working on, even if they're working on it.
That's actually a great way to message it. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's time.
Can I have a T-shirt?
Yeah.
Can you have a T-shirt? Yeah. But we're available for questions afterwards, of course. So just to finish off, there is another place where you can ask these questions. Who's part of the Office 365 network on Yammer? Okay, and are you asking your questions in there? Yeah, so not only are we answering the questions, but you've got the product group in there, you've got other experts as well, and you're all answering each other's questions. It's a really good place to get in, and might I say, that's where the persistent chat is happening, the conversation, it's all there. So if you do have some other questions to follow up on, it was really nice to see some questions appear all of a sudden in the OneNote notebook. We might be able to get back to those. But yeah, do ask them here, ask them as we're finishing. And thanks all for attending.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.